Despite not really wanting a sequel and some slang overload in the beginning of the movie, I really like Black Phone 2. If you're like me, you thought The Black Phone should have been a one and done movie. After all, it's based on a very short story by Joe Hill. But according to something I just read, Joe Hill was the one who kind of pushed for this sequel to be made. The writer and director weren't really looking to make one, but Joe Hill had a very interesting idea on where this could go. And I have to say, I liked that direction. The story starts 5 years after the events of the original Black Phone. Finn isn't really dealing well with his newfound fame or infamy, depending on how you look at it. And now his younger sister, Gwen, is the one who is dealing with visions. Finn is still hearing out of order phones ring, but he simply picks them up and says, I can't help you. He is done with what happened in the first film, and he would just rather forget it. Meanwhile, Gwen is kind of picking up on where his abilities left off. She's having dreams about this winter campground and a phone call that comes from her mother when her mother had worked at this camp as a counselor. She decides that she's going to work at this camp over winter break and see what she can find out about both her mom and why she's having these dreams and visions. She convinces Finn to go with her, even though he wants no part of it. And she also convinces a good friend / kind of boyfriend to go with her. So really, this starts out as more of Gwen's story than Finn's. Finn is still a big part of it. He's still overcoming these horrible things that have happened to him. But this is really about Gwen's dreams and how really proactive she is in trying to figure this out. The grabber himself doesn't even really play into this until quite a bit into the movie. And before I even talk about any other aspects of this film, the performances were amazing. Madeline McGraw and Mason Thames are both just great younger actors. I'm really looking forward to seeing what their careers will turn into. Especially Madeline McGraw carrying really the emotional weight of this movie, and to do that as a young actor like she really did in the first one. It's a lot to ask of a younger actor, and it's even more impressive when they can pull it off. And Mason Thames does a lot with the character of Finn just with a look. You really feel what he's feeling. He doesn't even have to say much. You can see how much the weight of, being the survivor of the grabber has impacted his life. He didn't want this. He just did what he had to do. And yet people are treating him in some ways kind of like a hero, or in some ways just kind of wanting to, let's see what you're made of. You survived the grabber. So he's getting into fights and things like that. He really just wants everything to just go away. He doesn't want to remember it. He doesn't want to think about it. He doesn't want anyone else to be thinking of it. So now when his little sister is having dreams, having visions along the same lines of what he went through, he really does not want to go through this again. As worried as he is for his younger sister, he really just kind of wants no part of it. So Gwen, Finn, and their friend Ernesto get jobs as counselors at this winter Christian camp. Really just there to see what kind of answers they can get as far as Gwen's dreams go. Now, this is just outside of Denver, and like I said, it's the winter, so there is this really horrible storm. So now they're there, but there's going to be no campers. So you just have the head of this camp, Mando, and you have his daughter who looks after things as well. And then you also have this couple there to oversee things. So really you're just down to bare bones staff. And immediately that first night, Gwen starts having these dreams. And while she is being harmed in these dreams, the harm is actually happening to her on her sleeping body. This is very much in the same vein of A Nightmare on Elm Street. She starts off having dreams of these horrible things that have happened to these former child campers that had been there. And be warned, there is a lot of gore in this one. The first one didn't have a lot of gore. This one kind of doubles down on that, and it is done well. But in going along with the Freddy aesthetic, we kind of picked up on the more gory nature of having a character like that. The Grabber is very much Freddy. But that's not to say that he's not his own villain. Ethan Hawke is very chilling as the Grabber. And in this one, he is even more vicious because he really has no bounds. He can do anything he wants to Gwen in her dreams. So what's happening in the dream is also happening in life. And speaking of aesthetics, there were these heaters that were used in the cabins that they were sleeping in that I've never seen heaters like that. I don't know whether these are accurate to the time or they just did it just for the look of them, but it almost gave this feeling of being in hell. It was just an interesting look. The winter setting really works well. It really helps with that feeling of isolation and that no help can get to you. Because not only can no outside help get to the camp, how are you going to help someone when they're being harmed in their dreams? Dreams have no limits. So we have Gwen trying to come to terms with these abilities that she has, and it also starts turning into a simple mystery. She's having dreams about these kids. Well, who are they? What happened to them at this camp? And as she is more honest with the other employees that work there, they are also able to help Gwen and her friends figure it out, because the reason why the character of Mando, and he's played by Damien Berchier, who I could listen to talk all day long, I just love his voice, he has been searching for what happened to these kids since he was a counselor at that time when they were murdered. So it's part Nightmare on Elm Street, it's part murder mystery. And even though the nods to Freddy are obvious, it doesn't feel like a ripoff. This is very much its own idea. And underneath the major plot points, it really is about coming to terms with trauma in Finn's case. And it's also, in the case of Gwen, about that fear of where this horrible thing had happened to her mother and that fear that that same thing is going to overtake you. I can speak for myself personally why that resonated with me, because I have dealt myself with anxiety and depression from a very young age. And that really kicked off for me because I had a parent who was a paranoid schizophrenic. And there really is that feeling of, is that same thing going to happen to me? I don't want it. And you can see Gwen really struggling with this because we know what happened to her mother from information we got in the first one. And she's afraid, if she keeps having these dreams and having these visions, is that same fate going to befall her? And that is a very real fear, I think, that a lot of people have for a variety of reasons, whether it is something like mental illness or a physical ailment or just a personality trait of their parents that they don't like. It's just that feeling of feeling almost fated to fall into that same situation and really just trying to break free of it. That thread was very present throughout the movie. And they really nailed the just overall aesthetic of the movie, where whenever Gwen is dreaming, it has that very Super 8 film look to it. So okay, she's dreaming now. And I also found it interesting that they do continue the thread with their father. And Jeremy Davies does a really good job as the father, because that has to be a very difficult role to play, because we know from the first one that this is someone with a drinking problem who is not dealing very well with the death of his wife. And we did see him beating his children. So it's very hard to feel anything for someone like that. But he also plays it where the reason why he is acting out in these horrible ways is because he is in so much pain, and you see that pain. It would be very easy just to write him off as, oh, he's just an asshole. And this one, we see that he really is trying. He's given up drinking. You see that he's more engaged with his kids. So I do really like that arc, and I think a lot of it has to do not just with the writing, but with Jeremy Davies' performance. That can be very hard to convey. I give this one 3.5 top hats. I still hold the first one a little closer to my heart. I think I like that one a little bit better. But like I said, for this one, for an unnecessary sequel that I didn't really want, I was really nervous about what they were going to do. And honestly, I hope they don't make another one, just because I'm just afraid if you keep going with it, it's just going to just dilute everything. It's in the same way where, as much as I love the Scream movies, I just want them to stop, because while I have enjoyed the later ones, just stop before you just completely ruin it and just taint the whole thing.
Taint.
So a lot of the credit goes to director Scott Derrickson and the writer C. Robert Cargill. They're also the team behind Sinister, which is a movie I enjoy a lot. And that one was also starring Ethan Hawke. But they work very well together as a team and are just very good at what they do. Very easily could have been, just a soulless cash grab. And this is very much not that. Because yes, while I guess there are some threads where maybe they could make a third one, the way the ending was shot, the way the ending was done, it felt very final to me. So if you ever wanted to know what would happen if Freddy Krueger was invading your dreams while you're trying to solve the mystery, this one's for you. It just really has a lot of heart, which I should have expected because the first one did too. It really is about the relationship between the brother and the sister, and this kind of push-pull with Finn, where he wants to protect his sister, but he also just wants to be done with all of this. But from the top on down, this is a solidly made film. If you're even remotely curious about it, I would say take a chance, because you just might enjoy it. Because I understand the skepticism. I was right there. I really didn't want this sequel. I was really worried about what it was going to become. So I hope you like this review. Let me know if you've seen this one this weekend. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And like what you like. Don't be a dick. And empathy is a superpower.